So what's up people, and welcome to another Alita Battle Angel video. So today I will be doing a Alita Battle Angel / GUNNM video because I want to make the topic about Mars. And as much as the movie mentioned Mars, talking about the United Republic of Mars and where Alita originated, it didn't delve into too much of the background with regards to the planet. And so what I wanted to do is go over some of the information that is given in the source material with regards to the planet and of course the colonies there, and how it may tie into the movie and how the movie may be different based upon some of the information that we saw in the movie. Now before I start, I do want to give an update with regards to the recent box office numbers for the movie. Now according to the recent numbers by Box Office Mojo, I guess the domestic sales for this movie has finally cleared the $80 million mark, so that's good to see. Now these are estimates, and the final tally still has to come in after the weekend is over. But overall, it's really good to see that a movie that was originally a lot of, media was saying that it was going to fail at $25 million projections, is now clearing the $80 million milestone. Equally impressive is the international numbers or the global numbers of $390 million that it finally cleared. Again, I do not know how much of this is estimate. I do not know how much of this is updated. But in any case, we are finally reaching that area that seems to indicate that the $400 million target is pretty much a possibility. Considering the fact that another good news is that, of course, China has decided to extend the showing of this film all the way up to the middle of April, which indicates that even after these numbers, there will be quite a bit of revenue that may still come in from China. So overall, I think it's doing pretty good. I did go to see it again this Friday, and what was interesting is the theater was quite full considering how many weeks this movie has already been out. Now, I got a feeling this may be due to spring break and a lot of kids are out now, so the family finally decided, hey, let's go see Alita Battle Angel. I'm not sure. But it was heartening to see that even after so many weeks of its release, at least in the theater that I was with, it was doing well. It was the 7 o'clock showing at Friday evening, so I would expect that it would be one of the, more popular time slots, but still, again, considering the other movies have already been released, it's really nice to see that there's still interest and people coming to watch this movie. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was that there's quite a bit of interesting videos with regards to Alita Battle Angel's music on Tom Holkenborg, also known as Junkie XL's YouTube channel. And I'll leave a link to one of the videos that I really enjoyed. It was with regards to Alita's theme, which I didn't realize. If you go into the OST or the original soundtrack, there is a song called I Don't Even Know My Name, which is the one that's played when Alita originally wakes up. I guess that is considered Alita's theme. And so, yeah, this was a very interesting video in that it talked about how he came about creating this theme, and the wonderful treat that you get if you watch this video, especially at the 7-minute and 13-second mark, is that there is a orchestral recording, live recording of that Alita's theme, which of course doesn't come out in the movie and doesn't come out in the original soundtrack. And it's absolutely beautiful. And for those people who mention that, they feel Alita Battle Angel's love story is very similar to the Romeo and Juliet tragedy, you'll find that very nice because of the fact that the music sounds very much like the old movie version of Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, so for anybody interested, I would go suggest that you check it out. I'll leave a link once again to the Alita's theme video and take a look at it. Okay, so Mars. With regards to Mars, if you notice, I haven't made this video a part of the series with regards to the possible, storyline and the sequels for Alita Battle Angel. And the reason for that is I got a feeling, after I thought about it, that I don't think Mars will be a significant entity in any of the future storylines, at least for the first 3 movies. If there is movies beyond that point, it's another matter, but considering how long it'll be before, even the 4th movie will come out, that's a moot point. But in any case, yeah, I mean, even the main story, much of the Mars information won't come until you get to further down into the comic series for Last Order. And of course, it's a significant part of the Mars Chronicle because of the fact that that story takes place in Mars. But for this original comic series and for what I expect to see in the movie, I don't think Mars will come out significantly, with the exception of potential information that comes out in backstories that may come out in the movie. So in this video, instead of giving certain plot points that come out in the storyline, way in the future, what I wanted to do is more give a background with regards to the world of Mars, and how the colonies and the governments are set up, and how it ties into some of the things that may be going on in the current storyline. We've already seen certain information with regards to Mars. And what I wanted to talk about is give a background information that comes from the comic that will give you a world building and that will help you understand some of the things that are going on. The historical adversity between Earth and Mars, what was going on with regards to what is called the Fall, but in general, in the cosmic space, is called the Terraformer Wars. And how is Mars built, and why was Mars such a key area for the Terraformer Wars? So those types of things I do want to talk about here, and then go over some of the things that we saw in the movie and how it may relate to the information that we already know in the comic, as well as some of the differences that I have seen. So as you can imagine, once again, I'll give my spoiler alert. Before I go on, if you don't want to hear about these backstories that may solidify some of the information that you saw in the movie, and you would rather see it from the reveals that you will see in the movie, then I would suggest that you turn off this video. I'll try to avoid any plot points and just keep it to the background of the information with regards to the planet, the government, and how it tied to these historical events that happened in Earth. However, again, if that is even too much information, then please turn off the video at this point. And thank you very much for watching. And for anybody else who does want to learn more about the information with regards to Mars, even if there may be things that may be potential mild spoilers, then please go ahead and watch. So this is my default spoiler alert. And watch at your discretion. Okay, so Mars was one of the 3 great global civilizations that was colonized several hundred years before the time of this movie. And if I remember right, I'm not completely clear about this, but if I remember right, it was around 200 years after our current date. Now, of course, the other 2 planets that were colonized were Jupiter and Venus. But Mars, if I recall, was the earliest of the colonized planets. And in fact, it was so early that from the comics history, or from the storylines history, the initial colonization actually began before the Great Geocatastrophe that basically decimated the countries that we know currently, right? And created the new Earth that had these great sky cities. That eventually, of course, one of them is Zalem. And so most of the major colonization, of course, occurred after these sky cities were created, because the geocatastrophe was so catastrophic. I don't think any of the colonization that occurred prior to the geocatastrophe really continued on until the great sky cities were built. And then, of course, during a certain level, the great space colonization plan began, and it started in Mars. Now, according to the source material, the background information that we have about Mars is mostly in 2 timelines, right? So the main information that we have is how the government and the planet is structured during the current timeline where Alita wakes up. And of course, the other information we have is the things that occurred 300 years ago during the Great War, when Alita was starting to learn about her Panzerkunst. And so I'll talk about both, although I'll focus mostly on the current timeline since the story talks more about it, at least in this time. We'll probably know a lot more about what happened during the war, due to the continuing story that's coming out for Mars Chronicle. However, at this time of this video, since we know more about what's going on in the current timeline, I'll talk about that. So if you recall in my Destinova video, I mentioned that, if you go all the way out to Mars, people could care less about Nova because they have too many problems of their own and they're a completely dysfunctional planet. Well, I kind of mentioned it that way because amongst the 3 colonized planets, although Mars was the earliest, it probably has the least stable government structure. And the reason for that is Mars, although it's not the easiest place to live due to its kind of atmosphere, it is very rich in resources, and because of that, it became a target for all of the colonized planets, including Earth. And so currently, in the timeline where Alita wakes up, there are many separate governments that are somewhat conflicting in Mars. The 4 main governments that we have seen in the storyline are the Mars Kingdom Parliament, the Mars Republic here, the Mars Front de Befrein, I think is what it's called, and the Neo Third Reich Division, of which I think the 3 big ones are the Mars Kingdom Parliament, the Mars Republic here, and the Mars Front de Befrein. And in fact, what's interesting about those is the planets that are backing these 3 governments up are Earth, Venus, and Jupiter. So for the Mars Kingdom Parliament, it is being backed by Earth currently. So latter is the kind of the partner with the Mars Kingdom Parliament, and it is probably the most prominent of all the governments that you see in the storylines, with Alita interacting quite a bit from that. I'm not sure if there's multiple kingdoms in there, but it does seem to currently be reigned by a queen named Queen Limera, who seems to be quite a benevolent queen. Now, the Mars Republic here, which we don't know too much about, is the one that seems to be sponsored by the Republic of Venus, and the Mars Front de Befrein seems to be sponsored by the Jupiter Union. So by that alone, you could already see, even currently, although there is not a significant amount of battles going on Mars, it's still not a peaceful area. There's a lot of cloak and dagger and backstabbing and a lot of corruption that happens in Mars based upon the fact that these 3 entities are constantly trying to gain the full control of Mars. Now, on top of that, there seems to be this new area that's starting to gain power, which is the Neo Third Reich Division, which is a kind of a neo-fascist government that's trying to gain control of a significant amount of power in Mars. Now, on top of that, I think there are other even smaller entities and governments that are scattered about, such as Grunthal Colony or the Grunthal Academy, which was the independent area which was basically the academy for the Panzerkunst practitioners, as well as the Kingdom of Cydonia, which I haven't seen is associated with any of these other 3 governments. So there are other independent governments that are, currently scattered about, and because of that, it tends to be a big mess. Now, with regards to the physical characteristics of Mars, the planet is now completely habitable, if I recall. And if you think about Mars, see the NASA photos of Mars, you always see that kind of this reddish haze environment with red soil and all that. The scene that you saw in The Martian, right? Well, think of the Martian movie with a bunch of really big cities in it, and you get what you might think of what Mars looks like in the Alita Battle Angel slash GUNNM comic verse or story verse. And so in addition to that, of course, there are big cities, but there are a lot of remote areas where a significant amount of battle has occurred. So there's a lot of destruction and collateral damage that you see in the environment. And the planet was made habitable by basically covering the entire planet with a canopy, which I think is called the Himmelsal. And they're propped up by these huge salt pillars that basically span up to the sky and keep that canopy up. And so, it's kind of like a giant planet-sized tent. Now, of course, every once in a while, since it has been a big war zone, there has been situations where that canopy has breached. And whenever it breaches, thousands of people die due to the, atmospheric ventilation that occurs at that point. And, of course, the canopy coming down, which would crush all of the people below it. So now if we go back 300 years from the movie timeline, I think the planetary government structure is very similar. However, of course, because it's in the middle of this great terraforming war, Mars was a center of immense conflict. A lot of the war took place in the surface of Mars because, of course, Mars was one of the major terraforming resources to which these colonies and Earth battled, right? And so Mars just unfortunately became the target for all of the aggression by many of these other colonies. And because of that, a centralized government never was able to be created there. And now, if you think about it, that is the environment to which Alita grew up. So you could imagine what sort of horrors Alita saw when she was younger. And I won't go into detail, and I'll just leave it at that point. What was interesting is when a lot of people saw Alita Battle Angel and saw Alita as this wonderful upbeat personality, they were like, wow, I wish I grew up like Alita. I'm like, no, I don't think anybody deserves that sort of horror. And of course, with all this conflict going on and the terraformers wars going, this became a perfect environment for the creation of Grunthal, which was of course the central headquarters for the Panzerkunst academies. And so leveraging upon the conflict, Grunthal created the Camera Group, which was an autonomous, non-political, super elite mercenary group that will perform Black Ops operations. I guess that's redundant. Black Ops operations for any of these conflicting entities. And of course, these governments would hire the Camera Group for two particular reasons. That the mission was so dangerous that they felt that their own military squads would not be able to successfully complete them, and required the super elite capabilities of the Camera Group, or that the mission was so horrific and ethically dark that they never wanted to be associated with those missions. And so, as you can imagine, the missions that the Camera Group took on were extremely dangerous and oftentimes what many would call extremely ethically questionable missions. So now if we come to the movie, there are many scenes from the movie that we could use to associate this storyline to what we see in the source material. First and foremost is, of course, that Alita is associated or was associated with the Camera Group. And this you can see because of the fact that first, of course, Alita is a master of Panzerkunst, which was a martial art technique that was specifically exclusive to Grunthal and the mercenaries of the Camera Group. Second, of course, if you see in the flashbacks, she was involved with the raid of the space elevator, which, of course, from the source material, we know was one of those missions that the Camera Group was involved with. So this of course indicates that a lot of the information that we are seeing from the movie can be associated and is in line with the information that we have from the source material. However, there are a few differences as well, and I'll go over them here. First and foremost, Alita is or from the United Republic of Mars, which is different, or at least seems different, considering the fact that, of course, Alita is a Panzerkunst practitioner, which indicates that she is from the Camera Group, which is an autonomous, non-political mercenary team. So why is she associated with one of the governments in Mars? This is hard to tell, but I will talk about this a little bit later. The other thing is, of course, there is no government entity that we know in the source material called the United Republic of Mars. Now, they may have gone ahead and called it and then later on we'll call it the Mars Kingdom Parliament, for example. I don't know, but it is interesting that they are talking about a single faction only, and that faction is the one that is basically warring with Earth. And also the squad that was attacking the space elevator had the symbol on their ship. And of course, Alita and the Panzerkunst team was using the Berserker bodies, which of course used Berserker cells, which was actually a technology developed in Venus, not in Mars. And so this brings up a lot of questions with regards to exactly what is the structure of Mars, how is it affiliated with Jupiter and Venus, and what is going on with regards to the war. Now, there are possible explanations that you can make for all of this. For example, since the Camera Group are elite mercenary operatives, they may be actually additional members that are associated with the frontline invasion fleet of to Earth, right? Will be invading Earth publicly, and so they are known to be invading Earth, and they're fine with that, but they want the Camera Group to do additional Black Ops operations beyond that. And so they will plant these agents on the surface of Earth once they start the attack. That may be the case, in which case you understand why the ships that were carrying the Kunstlers actually had the symbol on it. And there also may be a reason that the Kunstlers are wearing the Berserker body, which is Venus tech, in the sense that if they are ever caught or killed, and their bodies are investigated, that they will notice that it's Venus tech rather than Mars tech. And because of that, whatever additional horrific Black Ops operations was performed by the Kunstlers will be associated with the Republic of Venus rather than the Mars kingdoms, and so, or the United Republic of Mars. That may be one possibility. The other possibility may be something really simple, that now the Berserker cell technology has been transferred from the Venus Republic to the Mars Republic. It could be something as simple as Venus may have invented the Berserker cells technology, but they used it in battle so much that eventually Mars was able to get hold of samples of the Berserker cells and reproduce it themselves. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. Or that they may have stolen a few of these Berserker bodies during battle and then, of course, gave it to the Camera Group to use, so that, as once again, if they were ever caught or killed, then their Berserker bodies would indicate that they came from Venus rather than Mars. I'm not sure about that. But there are many explanations that you still can make that can bring all of the storyline back to being similar to what you have in the source material, even though initially it looks a little bit different. Okay, well, that's about it for this video. I hope this will give you some basic understanding of the background with regards to Mars, its history, and how it relates to the Terraformer Wars, which resulted in the Great Fall, that of course you see the results in the original movie. And if you have any questions, please or comments, please post it in the comment section below. As always, I always enjoy your comments, so yeah, please do so. And I apologize if I missed a lot of things, which I know I did because there's a lot more information with regards to Mars, but I just wanted to keep this video basic. Anyway, I'll continue to make more Battle Angel Alita, GUNNM, Alita Battle Angel videos in the future. I hope you join us at that time. Thank you very much for watching. And until the next video, happy movie watching, happy anime watching, happy comic reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.